Coming up, Philippines city volunteers hold aid distributions to help those affected by the recent floodings. And Hualien City Hospital smoking cessation classes successfully help smokers quit their bad habit. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Wendy Chen. Thank you for joining us. First up in the Philippines, the combination of Typhoon Chami and a seasonal monsoon has caused severe flooding in Metro Manila, affecting countless residents. To help, city volunteers and local volunteers were mobilized to distribute hot meals and aid supplies in the cities of Marikina, San Mateo, San Juan, and Quezon. Let's take a look.
As soon as the waters receded, Philippine city volunteers traveled to the Tatalong Elementary School in Quezon City. Currently, more than 1,000 flood survivors are staying at the school without clean clothes to change into.
Right now, these survivors need food the most. Other than aid supplies given by the government, they also need clothing and blankets.
To many of the disaster survivors, the arrival of the city volunteers is like seeing their own family.
Who is a city member or recycling volunteer? All of you?
We had so much garbage before and it affected our lives. We need to keep our living environment clean and sort all the plastic bottles and aluminum cans.
After receiving aid supplies from Tzu Chi, many local residents have started to promote the practice of recycling to other community residents. In just a day, Philippine city volunteers conducted a disaster survey and successfully delivered straw mats, second-hand clothes, and rice from Taiwan to flood survivors that are currently living in temporary shelters.
Thank you!
We can only pray that no disaster will ever happen again. Whenever a disaster strikes, we have to abandon our home. It is really hard for us.
Other than distributing aid supplies in Tatalong Elementary School in Quezon City, Metro Manila city volunteers and community volunteers were also mobilized to care for flood survivors in temporary shelters and provide hot meals in the San Juan arena. 37 city volunteers also arrived at a local school in Rizal Province to provide 1,200 fried noodles to warm the stomachs of flood survivors. Meanwhile, in Marikina City, other than cooking hot meals, volunteers also joined hands with community bread stores and provided 5,300 loaves of bread to countless hungry residents.
As residents in China's Guangdong province continue to be affected by the recent Typhoon Utar, city volunteers in the region have already mobilized in carrying out disaster surveys. Volunteers hope to bring necessary aid supplies as soon as possible and also prepare for the winter aid distributions come end of the year. The torrential rain over the past few days has caused flooding and traffic jams in China's Guangdong province. Despite the pouring rain, city volunteers continue on with their disaster surveying. Seeing the arrival of city volunteers, 103-year-old Xu Diao opens up and speaks of her daily life. Though life is not too difficult with help from her neighbors, the grandma nevertheless feels lonely living in solitude. City volunteers walk into the lives of their care recipients to learn the difficulties they face, in hopes of bringing not only relief items but also emotional support for those in need. Residents affected by the rain know, with city volunteers by their side, the days ahead are looking better and brighter. Moving to Guatemala in early August, the town of Livingston in Isabel was hit by one of the worst floodings in 15 years, affecting the lives of many impoverished residents. With requests from the mayor of Livingston, city volunteers arrived at the disaster area to conduct a survey followed by an aid distribution on August 18th, helping 260 families in total.
After the heavy rain stopped and the flood water receded, what remains is waterlogged furniture and watermarks on the wall. Situated near the Caribbean Sea, Livingston, a town in eastern Guatemala, prone to flooding caused by the overflowing of rivers. In face of the worst flooding in 15 years, local residents are in urgent need of food and daily necessities. As a result, the mayor of Livingston sought help from Tzu Chi. The volunteers traveled some 200 kilometers to survey the disaster area and carried out an aid distribution 3 days later. On the day of the distribution, countless residents arrived early to receive Tzu Chi's relief supplies. Some traveled almost 3 hours to reach the distribution site. Tzu Chi volunteers respectfully handed out 9 kilos of black beans, corn flour, and 4.5 kilos of rice, as well as other necessities to each family. A total of 260 households received Tzu Chi's help.
Gracias.
The volunteers also seized the opportunity to encourage residents to donate their spare change in return. Tzu Chi's warmth and love will continue to support them as they rebuild their homes.
On August 21st, which was also the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, a blessing ceremony was held at Hualien's Jingse Boat in Taiwan, where Dharma masters, Tzu Chi volunteers, and foundation staff joined in prayers for a world free from disasters. Meanwhile, in Fuding, China, Tzu Chi volunteers organized a blessing ceremony at a local recycling station and promoted the concept of no burning of joss paper and ways to cherish our planets to local residents.
People pray to deceased spirits and celestial gods for peace and prosperity during the 7th lunar month. Yet, if kind thoughts and good deeds already bring merits, is burning joss paper a necessity?
People are burning joss paper everywhere, but for me, the 7th lunar month is just as Master Zhen Yan said, a compassionate thought that has the power to change the world.
We practice recycling, 1, to save the world, 2, to save the poor, and 3, to accumulate blessings for our future generation. With a change in heart and a commitment to recycling, Zheng Zhengkun has gotten rid of his bad habits since he met Tzu Chi.
Now that I have successfully quit smoking, I feel really good. I had diabetes and was often hungry. Sometimes I would go into shock or faint, but in the past year, it hasn't occurred.
While some have gained a healthier lifestyle practicing recycling, others have chosen to take on a vegetarian diet.
I made a vow to be a vegetarian in life after life. Now my responsibility is to encourage my family to join me.
Since I began a vegetarian diet, I have been in great shape. Don't look at how thin I am. I feel tranquil and spiritual. Here at the blessing ceremony in Tailaoshan Township, recycling volunteers share the rewards recycling has brought them with fellow villagers.
Practicing recycling keeps your body fit and healthy and your mind free of worries. In the 5 years that I have been practicing recycling, I have had no worries and I'm very content.
With members of the public coming together in prayer, the recycling station was transformed into a spiritual cultivation ground. Amid the solemn sutra chanting and under the leadership of Jingse Boat Dharma masters, a blessing ceremony at the Jingse Boat commences. With offerings of light and fresh fruit for the bodhisattvas, everyone in attendance holds to a sincere and pious heart. The burning of joss paper and the killing of animal for offerings is not found in Buddhist practices. Buddhism teaches us to have compassion and empathy for all beings. In Buddhism, apart from the 15th day of the 7th lunar month being the final day of Vasa, it is also a month of filial piety. Hence, Jingse Boat Dharma masters hope to, through a simple yet solemn ceremony, convey the right belief and understanding of Buddhist practice. We have to humanize the Buddhist teachings and bring more bodhisattvas into this world. Through such a blessing ceremony, we extend the true principles and true beliefs of Buddhism to members of the public. In 15 countries worldwide, a total of 527 blessing ceremonies were held as members of the public around the world brought their love together to pray for peace and blessings.
Following his final spinal surgery in mid-August, Yang Xiaodong from Xiamen, China, who suffered from severe ankylosing spondylitis, is now able to do some simple exercises. To show his gratitude to Tzu Chi, Yang served as a Tzu Chi ambassador, delivering love and care to Liang Weihan, who is also immobile due to elephantiasis. In addition, Yang also made a donation to the Buddhist NGO in hopes of paying the love forward.
Holding the receipt of his donation to Tzu Chi is Yang Xiaodong from Xiamen, China, who donated $66 as a way to show his thanks to Tzu Chi.
My donation will help disaster survivors.
Inspired by Yang, Wang Yinshui, despite her limited mobility, visits Yang against all odds. This time, she brings a blessing red envelope for him and wishes him a speedy recovery.
阿姨也祝福你哦，早日康复。
你看，阿姨她小东把你给她的2000块捐出去，
这个没有什么啦，
手机拿，就是这个阿姨，
小东也是很有爱心啊。
As it is time to say goodbye, both give each other a big hug. Mrs. Wang promises Yang that she will revisit him in the near future. Currently, Yang Xiaodong's plaster cast has not been removed. However, today he will be serving as Tzu Chi's ambassador on a visit to Liang Weihan from Indonesia, who has been suffering elephantiasis for the past 19 years. As part of his encouragement, Yang puts his love and care in a song. As well, Yang stands up and walks around to show his recovery to encourage Liang Weihan.
I will join Tzu Chi volunteers' ranks and show my care and love to other patients.
Despite the language barrier, the love among both youngsters has connected their hearts together.
To celebrate the 7th lunar month, a blessing ceremony was held at the Taoyuan Jingsi Hall, and Tzu Chi volunteers invited Xu Yafen's Taiwanese opera troupe to perform a Buddhist tale as part of the activities. Inspired by the play, one Tima doctor vowed to take on a vegetarian diet.
A play performed by Xu Yafen's Taiwanese opera troupe of a doctor whose love for meat had him banished to hell took audience members by storm. Attending the event was also a grandmother who made a special trip up from Hsinchu, despite having watched the show several times on DaAi TV.
The program Bodhi Mind teaches us moral and principles and how to cultivate ourselves. They always tease me that it's alright for me to miss a meal, but nothing's alright if I miss my Taiwanese opera.
Fans of Taiwanese opera from all over flocked to the venue.
We're grateful for Tzu Chi for organizing such a spectacular venue and organizing a Taiwanese opera performance. We learn a lot from these plays, like how to better handle our interactions with people.
A Tima doctor on call at the event was also inspired to take on a vegetarian diet.
I promise starting from next month to begin a vegetarian diet. If we want to protect our planet and have good health, then going meatless is the best way.
With some 3,000 participants in attendance, entrepreneur Zhang Fushun's family also seized the opportunity to take part in the performances, and his wife Zhen Jinsui made adjustments to her lifestyle for the sake of the performance.
A spiritual practitioner should practice restraint, so I began with changing my lifestyle.
Ling Jinglu, founder of the first vegetarian Rotary Club, also arrived to show his support.
Vegetarianism is actually the best way to save all beings.
Conveying the right understanding and right views at the event, a Dharma master is of the same mind.
It gave sentient beings hope and also salvation, so thank you very much.
With the event concluding on a successful note, each participant leaves with joy and blessings in their hearts.
In 2003, the SARS epidemic sparked global panic, and Master Zeng Yan encouraged members of the public to go meatless as a way to pray for peace and harmony. To follow suit, the Malaysia Tzu Chi chapter began inviting residents to commit to a month of vegetarianism by providing free meatless meals to the general public. 10 years on, despite having SARS brought under control, the vegetarian event has continued on. Up until this day, the campaign has inspired not only members of the public, but also religious representatives to join.
什么是树？
微微就地球。动物有时候
Animals and humans are all living beings, so we need to adopt a vegetarian diet. If we eat meat, our stomachs will be filled with animals' dead bodies.
就会变成坟墓。
In 2003, the SARS epidemic sparked global panic. Back then, Master Zhen Yan encouraged members of the public to go vegetarian as a way to pray for peace and harmony. Soon after, Malaysia Tzu Chi chapter decided to offer free vegetarian meals to the general public for the month of May.
看看午夜啦，在马来西亚，在不同宗教的国度。 不只是慈济人自我提倡、自我斋戒了，他还要在这样的国度里去落实、去推动。好几年哦，他们呢在午夜一整个月呢，都是提倡素食斋戒啊，而且不断供应、免费供应哦，给人人能。 吃到了这样的素食。
Back then, the first vegetarian event was held at a Jingsi Books and Cafe. The year after, with the establishment of the local Jingsi Home, the event was expanded to every liaison offices in Malaysia. To make sure the event is a success, every day in the month of May, volunteers have to start preparing for the ingredients early in the morning. Thanks to volunteers' selfless dedication, the vegetarian meals have not only inspired local residents to go meatless, but also inspired some religious representatives to follow suit.
I think it's very good. I think it's vegetarian is rather healthy. I wish I could be always vegetarian, you know.
Thanks to local Tzu Chi volunteers, more and more people have embraced vegetarianism. In 2010, the number of vegetarian meals prepared by the Tzu Chi Malaysia chapter increased from more than 2,000 to more than 4,000 a day. In 2011, the number reached more than 5,000 per day, with more than 1,400 lunch boxes ordered from Penang and Kedah. A total of 46,500 chickens were saved by not adding chicken to any of those meals. On May 8, 2011, to celebrate Global Tzu Chi Day, Malaysia Tzu Chi volunteers vowed to encourage more than 10,000 people to go meatless for a day. As a result, 240 vegetarian restaurants supported the event, and more than 80,000 people went meatless for the day. Seeing the success of the campaign, the event was launched again in 2012. To show their support for the Meatless Month event, community residents have reached out with helping hands and joined the volunteers' ranks to prepare the meals. Among the volunteers is grandmother Deng Yingzuan, who says she has regained her strength after walking the Tzu Chi path.
時常嚟幫手啊，會攰冇？
唔會啊。
點解咧？
我哋仲要精神嘅喎，講出冇人相信嘅真係。
點解會越做越精神咧？
我呢一年到晚冇病喎。
Despite the SARS epidemic passing, Malaysia Tzu Chi volunteers' dedication in promoting vegetarianism has continued to inspire more people to become vegetarian as a way to safeguard living beings and their health.
In 2010, the Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital decided not to wait for patients to come to them and instead took their smoking cessation classes on the road and into the workflows. The success of these classes is evident in many former smokers who have returned to the classes to share their stories. Next, we meet Zheng Guohui, who is a graduate of the quit smoking class and said that getting rid of his bad habits has helped him get a job and strengthen the bonds within his family.
Here in Hualien, Taiwan, Zheng Guohui's job is to patrol the facility, making sure the equipment is running smoothly.
I'm not sure. I think around 800 meters. I probably make about 30 rounds each day.
When Jin first applied for this job at the Hualien Water Recycling Center, his employer had a special request.
He especially asked if I smoked. I said I was no longer a smoker. Then he replied, since I've quit, then don't pick it back up.
For Jin, who smoked 1 pack a day for over 19 years, the effects nicotine had on his body made him want to stop.
When I did smoke, I would be constantly coughing.
A 2011 graduate of the smoking cessation class held by Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital not only helped him successfully give up the habit, but also got him the job.
The head nurse would show clips of the effects of smoking, and I would think, wow, that lung is black from cigarettes. The class is really useful for those who want to give up smoking, as they provide actual evidence of the dangers of nicotine.
In order to understand each student's nicotine addiction, a breath carbon monoxide test is done to measure the level of carbon monoxide in each person's exhalation. No longer waiting for the patients to come to them, in 2010, Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital entered the workplace to hold smoking cessation classes.
Cancer, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and respiratory diseases. These 4 types of illness encompasses 60% of the causes of death, which of the 4th is not related to smoking.
The initiative to enter the community arose from wanting to prevent any further impact of nicotine addiction on society.
If the pillar of a house fell down, then it might cause the family to fall apart. If we can inform patients from a medical standpoint of the dangers of nicotine and influence them to break the habit, then perhaps society will be better off as a result.
The smoking cessation case manager also tells her students the benefits of quitting. During the classes, the hospital also invites former smokers to share their success stories.
My cigarette money became formula money, and there was plenty left over. It was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
After working, Zhen will have dinner at home with his family and later go for a walk with his wife and youngest daughter.
你最讨厌爸爸做什么事情？
抽烟。
为什么呢？
因为抽烟很臭。
Motivation to quit smoking 2 years ago was not only about Zhen's health, but also to give his children a clean living environment.
戒烟加油。
好，加油。
Smoking affects the children too. When he started smoking, I would tell him when he smokes, it makes us sick and affects us too.
1苹果，2苹果，3。
After giving up cigarettes, not only has Zhen's health improved, but his family bonds are stronger than ever.
Back to Taiwan at the end of the show, Tzu Chi volunteers in Taipei's DaAi district visited some 100 veterans who live in the Banglan community with grain powder, instant noodles and other daily necessities to ensure they were prepared for the incoming storm. Team members who went along also made sure the seniors were all in good health condition. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.